Well, after a bombshell resignation in January and weeks of campaigning, we will learn who the next Liberal leader is on Sunday. That person will also become Canada's next Prime Minister. But how will that transition take place? Here's what we know so far. The new Liberal leader will be announced come Sunday. That's March 9th. It will take place at the Rogers Centre here in Ottawa. There will be some formalities when it comes to the ceremony and speeches and voting taking place. And then that person will be announced roughly around dinner time. They will be the next Prime Minister. However, in order for that to happen, the new leader will have to be sworn in by Mary Simon at Rideau Hall, the Governor General. Here's what we don't know per se. When will the new leader actually become PM? Because right now there are no rules around timelines for this transition period. And we've heard from the Prime Minister that he will have to work with whoever the new elected leader is by the Liberal Party about the transition. So we don't know exactly when he will actually hand over the reins. How does this impact the trade war, a relationship with the United States? Will a new leader maybe soften the blow or maybe make it harder to negotiate with U.S. President Donald Trump and the Oval Office? And then again, when will the 2025 election take place? We know the writ has to drop. Parliament is prorogued right now. The House is not sitting, but we will be in an election year, so the writ has to drop. Priorities for the new Prime Minister this election. If, for example, Mark Carney, who is deemed the front runner, is the next leader of the Liberal Party, we know that he's not actually officially an elected leader. So this election will be very telling because he will have to choose a riding to run in and hopefully be elected. Then he has to actually win seats. Once he wins those seats, selecting a cabinet, if that comes to pass, we don't necessarily expect a shuffle of cabinet prior to an election being called, but if they are successful, who gets what portfolio? And this will be very important when it comes to things like the trade war or conversations with other world leaders. Where will Canada stand in all of this when it comes to building a global alliance, perhaps with others, away from the U.S. if this trade war lingers and continues? We want to bring in Sunday's vote expert, Scott Reid. He is a political analyst for CTV News. Great to have you join us on CTV Morning Live, Scott.
Morning, Stefan.
What are you going to be looking for when it comes to these results on Sunday?
Well, there's a few curious things to watch in the vote, and we'll be down there broadcasting all the speeches and developments. But one, does Carney win? How quickly? That's the expectation. Does he win on the first ballot? Does it have to go to a second ballot? Mm-hmm. Which I'll just end the suspense now. He's almost certainly going to win on the first ballot. And even if he doesn't, it's like a tabulation of a recorded vote. So there won't be like a dramatic, oh my God, three men met in a cigar-filled room, they cut a deal, and now he's emerged as the winner. It'll be a pretty mathematical event. So he becomes leader. I'll be watching to see who comes second. You would never have for a second thought that Chrystia Freeland would be in any position other than first or second when this race started. But Karina Gould has really come on, generated a bit of energy and enthusiasm. Does that translate into votes? So on the pure evening, I'll be watching for that in terms of vote totals. And then I'll be watching to see how Carney takes the stage and what he has to say, given all that is happening in the country and around the world.
You know, we just broke down what could happen when the new leader is announced. What do you predict the new leader will do after being successful or elected for leadership of the Liberal Party?
Well, let me scare you first and just put it in historical context.
Yeah.
When my old boss, Paul Martin, was elected leader of the Liberal Party, that was on November 14th, in 2003. He then didn't actually become Prime Minister until December 12th. So almost a whole month passed.
Right.
I do not think we're going to see a whole month pass before they move. So I think you'll see, given the circumstances, the trade and tariff war with Trump, all of the political demand for change, the imminent return of Parliament on the 24th of March, I think you're going to see a transition that's maybe a week long. I think that maybe from Sunday to Sunday, you're going to see Mr. Carney installed as Prime Minister, so a very quick transition by historical standards. Then he'll form a cabinet. We'll be curious to see what kind of cabinet he picks, who's he installs as Finance Minister. How much of it is legacy cabinet of what we have now versus how much of it is a shuffle of people that he's decided to put into place? What happens with Chrystia Freeland? Does she sit in cabinet? And if so, in what position? All those kinds of real insidery political things. But the big question then is, how quickly do we go to an election?
Right.
And the answer, Stefan, is going to be quick.
And some say it will have to be quick because people are taking issue with the fact that if Mark Carney is successful, that he is not technically an elected official. And so they are waiting to see if that happens. We saw in the Ontario election that, someone like Crombie lost her seat, even though they gained seats as a party.
There are 3 or 4 reasons, all of which sort of push you toward a quick election call by Carney if he becomes PM on Sunday. So first, there is his question of he doesn't have a seat. He's never actually run for elected office, and boom, he gets to start in the first day at the very top. So, there's the question of he'll want to seek a mandate. Second, we are obviously in a time of incredible churn and turmoil. Every day Donald Trump slaps on a tariff, removes a tariff, sets a deadline, breaks a deadline, dangles the prospect of economic ruin in front of us, and then yanks it away. We need a stronger hand to deal with that. I suspect that Carney will want to call an election to say, let's settle this issue. Let's be crystal clear who our federal negotiator is, who the opposite on the table from Trump will be. And I think the other big reason is, let's be honest, it's pure politics. Carney has actually captured some momentum in the polls. There are polls that show that as Liberal leader and prime minister, Carney brings the party back to a neck-and-neck fight with Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, largely driven by the belief that perhaps Carney is well suited to manage this issue of trade in an international financial crisis, given his background. So he's going to want to bank that momentum, get a campaign underway, try to do his best to say, this is my one and best shot. Let's have this campaign. Let's give the wheel a spin.
Well, it'll be an interesting weekend, Scott. Hopefully no one's too tired as we spring forward and then spring into action when it comes to coverage of this Liberal leadership race. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
You too. Have a wonderful weekend. CTV News will have full coverage of the Liberal leadership announcement. Tune in on Sunday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on CTV News channel, or you can live stream it at ctvnews.ca.